WCE Radio. Up next, man, we got Speedy Loke with Enemies. This is another, old school track. This came out 14 years ago. Wow. Let's get to it.
With my heater, Jabal, broken into a sweat, a motherfucking fever. Death coming soon with a misdemeanor. Flesh ripping apart from the enemy block cleaner. Roosevelt walk till I die, Mars local representer. Riding high, staying push up on the captain savers. Haters like them raiders. I roll with them Soccer Kings, fuck them Lakers. Northern Cali, Golden State Warriors. Yeah, Gotham, Mars, double big things, the motherfucking soldiers. Enemies, enemies, enemies. Target to your head, one shot, make them bleed. Enemies, enemies, enemies. Infrared beam, Glock 40, make them breathe. Enemies, enemies, enemies. Target to your head, one shot, make them bleed. Enemies, enemies, enemies. Infrared beam, Glock 40, make them breathe. Fuck all my enemies, they be catching the 223. Player hating on the G like me with that infrared beam. To his dome, yeah, it's on. Pack the steel, shiny chrome. Kicking a fucking dope in that place he calls home. Catch you slipping on the strip. Packing a fucking ass clip. The only thing you witness is the blood that fucking drips. Red fire around my face now. Look into my eyes. You saw my nine spark right before you fucking died. We get that gang blend up in that northern part of Kelly. And all the dance snitches getting dunked up in their bellies. Running coral juice at hope. We be letting the slugs go. It's that 4-weight G's click. Double the 5 with no. See, we dump outside and take the life and put them up in the ground. See, we get around, put it down from town to fucking town. Definition of an enemy is a scrap from down south. Who's up in the north and gets that gat up in his mouth. Enemies, enemies, enemies. Target to your head, one shot, make them bleed. Enemies, enemies, enemies. Infrared beam, Glock 40, make them breathe. Enemies, enemies, enemies. Target to your head, one shot, make them bleed. Enemies, enemies, enemies. Infrared beam, Glock 40, make them breathe. Coming around your block, so you fuck you niggas better duck. We got the cage, you bout the window, niggas, so we finna butt. Niggas try to high side, on my side, you gotta die. Step to these players, that's always stay in peace. Alright, well here's the deal, I'ma keep it up on the fucking real. And tell y'all niggas how this savage ass.
Like I always said, back in the 90s, bro, you had to been that person you looked in the mirror at all the time. You had to be him. The way you portrayed yourself, you had to be that. You had to show it every day. Like, it wasn't how the way it is today. Like, social media, you could be anything on social media nowadays, right? Back then in the 90s, in the streets, California, basically anywhere back in the 90s, like, you had to show that every day that you was that. Whether you was a robber, hustler, banger, all that. Like, you had to be that. It's eras that most of us wouldn't even be able to survive if we was the individuals who we were. If we was the individuals that we are today, and we went back in time in the 90s, in the early 90s when things was really going down, we wouldn't be able to last. Because our comfortability is different from everybody else's comfortability. Like, you couldn't have no comfortability back then. That's why when the old heads talk to us, they be like, back in the day, bro, like, all that phony baloney crap y'all doing right now, man, that shit wouldn't fly back then in the 90s. And they for real, too. It wouldn't. You know what I'm saying? I know how the way I am, like, I wouldn't be able to survive back then. I mean, because it's like, back then it was so freelance to the point where it's like, we being careful in our era. Back then, they era, you was an enemy, like, you know, you didn't care what it was. We hear the stories all the time, you know what I'm saying? From the OGs, whatever like that, they got bullet wounds, you know, one eye or something like that, or one leg or whatever like that. Like, they'll tell you, like, back then, man, they chopped stuff up. They really was, yeah. You know what I'm saying? So I know Speedy Loke, he was Either he was with it, or he knows somebody that was doing it, or he, I don't know, he about to criminalize my man's dog. So it's like, just know it was real. I felt those lyrics in Speedy Low. Enemies is a real song. That's a real one. And on that note, you already know how the way this go. It's your only host, BZ995, Spider, Speedy Low with Enemies on WC Radio. Peace.
Trying to take it to the top of the club.
Before I forget to just mention, my goals are something that I'm trying to make achievements. I'm tired of dying out, life ain't nothing but pain. Every time I look at different nurse, I think of my name. My shit is BC, ain't nobody else like this. Come on, stop trying to check, you can't like this. I'm so overflow, I make an overflood. And that's why when I spit, I make an overflow. The verse is so real.